What's up, my friends? Today we have a special video. We are breaking down one of my favorite soft plastic swim baits of all time. This is the Working Class Zero Citizen. So we are going to talk about the sizes, we're going to talk about the riggings, we're going to talk about what makes this so special, the rods, the line, everything you need to know about throwing this bad boy, and tease you with a special drop that's happening this weekend. So if you'd like to join along on a fun conversation of a super sick swim bait, let's have some fun. Let's go. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle.
Oh, what a stud.
Yeah. Look at that.
That was sick.
Cheers, my friends. Happy Sunday. All right, guys, some breaking news. What's new this week at the Hookup Tackle?
What a beautiful post-spawn fish.
Look at that.
Look at that gut on that. That's a nice fish.
All right, welcome back. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, the Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined by my buddy Callan. Callan, what is up?
How's it going, man?
It is going well. So today we're talking swim baits. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. This is a fun conversation. I love talking swim baits anytime, but coming into the fall of the year, I just feel like everybody starts getting swim bait juiced, right? We just spent the last few months in summer where, you know, some of you guys chose wisely and picked good places to live in the summer, but most of us chose places where basically Satan just takes up residency and it's just disgustingly hot. And hey, not that I mind throwing a frog and punching and doing cool summer things, but I'm ready to get back after it with some moving baits and some bigger baits. So this is a fun conversation, and a conversation that we've really never had here on YouTube. I've done a bunch of these on Instagram, but wanted to do just a full breakdown of one of my favorite baits, and that's the Working Class Zero Citizen, and really talk to you guys about how to throw this, how to rig it. I know a lot of you guys have been using this for years, so you know, maybe there's some tips in here that you pick up, but if you're new to the soft bait world or swim bait world at all, this is a swim bait that you want to pay attention to because it's incredibly versatile, and it just catches fish pretty much everywhere that we go. So let's start with a little color conversation. So me and your counterpart, Jeffrey the King, have these conversations about color all the time, Callan, and Jeff thinks that color doesn't matter. What do you think?
I think it definitely matters to a certain degree. I think there's situations where color really doesn't matter, but I also think there is where it does matter. Okay,
so that's a nice, vague, safe answer. I'm gonna take it. I'm a huge color guy. Now, obviously, I think, you know, casting angle and, you know, timing, retrieve speed, like these things are obviously the most critical thing, but I've seen color play a huge role almost every day that I fish, and I am a huge fan of white. If you guys have hung out here, you know that most of the custom colors that float around this shop, from White Walker to Ghost Geisha to Bonaire, like they're usually some type of white or bone pattern, and this is a color that I do as a special run with Working Class Zero that's called Cokehead. Now, we dropped this almost a year ago and it created a Cokehead frenzy. We are doing another drop this Sunday. So if you guys need more for your swim bait addiction, I've got you covered. Now, we actually did two colors the last time. We did a Cokehead and a Crackhead. And the way these two colors came to be is basically I wanted a two-tone white that had some white and had some clear, and we played with 9 million different color combinations, and I couldn't decide between the two. The Crackhead was more like of a bonish base, and the Cokehead was more of like a true white, and at the end of the day, I needed both. We did both. There's the two color combinations. So this Sunday, we are doing a redrop of our Cokehead color. It's just a fun play on words. So it's a super dope two-tone color, basically a pure white that has some purple pearl in the back, and then it transfers to a semi-clear base with some green pearl on the bottom. If you guys are fans of like Bonaire, basically that was the inspiration for this color. The same kind of pearlescent type colorations, but with this color toning. So, Working Class Zero Citizen, what is it? What makes it special? There are a million paddle tail swim baits on the market, as you guys know. Pretty much everybody's familiar with things like, you know, the Megabass Mag Draft, 316 Rising Suns, so on and so forth, right? What the Citizen does different is it gives us the ability to rig it as a weedless swim bait. So it's designed around owner beast hooks. And what's special about that is that it lets us fish it in places that you can't fish, like a line through or a traditional rigged with treble hook swim baits. It lets you really push the issue. You can fish this thing through super thick grass. You can skip it up underneath things and not worry about the treble hook snagging. You can fish it around trees and thick wood. In rocks, you can crawl it along the bottom and not worry about that treble hook snagging on anything on the bottom. There's just a lot of versatility that you can do with this bait. Now, one of the challenges to traditional paddle tails like this that are just solid pours is that the bodies are so thick that it doesn't have a great hookup ratio. So what Working Class Zero has done is they've created this air chamber. They call it the Chaos Air Chamber, but basically it's a hollow air chamber right here in the middle that allows the bait to compress, so that when the fish bite and you swing, the Citizen actually completely compresses, which allows the hook to have enough gap to get a good hook set in it. It also gives the bait some stability and a slightly different movement underwater, which is great. The other thing that's super sick about the Citizen is that they have this new built-in head case harness. You know, traditionally we've used these kind of twist lock style hooks, and you have to twist it in the front of the bait and then rig it. But one of the challenges is that after a couple fish, they tend to tear the front of the bait, and so you just live on your SB weld or your Mended or whatever, and the front of your baits get kind of screwed up. With that head case harness, it's built in, right? So you just kind of untwist it, you add your hook in, and then you twist it back in, and it's anchored inside of the plastic, so it's much more durable than a traditional paddle tail. Also, the Tormentor twist tail is what Working Class Zero calls this. It's a very special design in kind of how it goes hollow on the top, and then it's a perfect blend of being thin and thick to give just a super unique action. And basically what it does is, instead of it just having this kind of side to side movement that's very easy to get from any paddle tail, it does do that at really slow speeds, but as you speed it up, almost looks like it's spinning in a circle. It's got a very cool kind of much wider movement to it than you can get with a traditional paddle tail. It's just a fantastic all-around swim bait. Now, they come in 3 sizes for now: a 6-inch, a 7-inch, and then there is also a 9-inch size. The 9-inch size is going to be for you serious guys. By the way, the 6-inch is about 1.5 ounces. 7-inch is about 2.5 ounces, and then you're pushing over 4 on that 9-inch size. One more thing to point out, and then we'll get into riggings and rods. Mike Gilbert, the owner of Working Class Zero, he is a very intellectual thinker when it comes to fishing. A lot of guys buy something off the rack and they just want to catch fish, right? There's no intellectual thought going through it. Well, Mike is one of the first people that I've ever met that really believed in a bass's vision and being able to see hooks hanging from things, right? And he truly believes, and he's caught more giants than most humans alive, that when the fish can see a hook, whether it's, you know, coming down off the bait or whether it's dangling off, that they know it's fake, especially when they get to a large size. So Mike has built all 3 of these Citizen sizes around a very specific hook that basically has a built-in chamber for it to lay. So when it's rigged, you shouldn't see any external hook dangling below the bait, which gives it more of a pure and true nature to it without anything kind of dangling and screwing anything up. Let's get to rigging. So let's start here with the 6-inch. Now 6-inch is the most popular size. This is the easiest size to throw. Everybody can throw this size. I would bet that almost anyone watching this video has a rod already that can handle this. I'm gonna talk about rods in a minute so you know what I like to use and maybe just to give you some insight on what I would recommend. Gilbert designed the 6-inch to fit around a 6/0 weighted beast hook. Okay, now, this is what it was built around. This is what Gilbert believes in. I also like the 8/0, okay? And there's reasons to do both, and I'm gonna talk about both, and I'll go ahead and rig both so you guys can see the difference here. So let's start with the 6, and let's just do a quick rigging and show you guys what this looks like and how to do it, just in case you are new to this. So, when you get a pack of owner beast hooks, they're gonna come with this CPS spring on the front that's designed to twist in the front of the bait. We don't need this spring with the Citizen because it has the headlock harness in it. So we're gonna take that spring off so we have just the hook. We are going to come to this head case harness and we're just going to untwist it just a little bit. Doesn't have to be much, just enough to kind of get the hook in there. So you can see that this is kind of open right here. We are just gonna slide this on to that. Okay, just like that. Now, if you are concerned about this hook coming off, you can take a pair of pliers, you can close that gap. Okay, once the hook is on, there's really no reason for that hook to ever come off, so that now it's on there and there's no risk of it coming off. Then all we need to do is just re-tighten. Okay, so that's in the bait tight. And now it's ready to be rigged. So now you just have to line everything up, right? So right where that bends is where that hook's gonna go through. It's gonna sit inside of that air chamber. And when it's rigged properly, it's gonna be perfectly straight. You can see that hook is just gonna sit right there on top of the bait. And on the bottom of the bait, you're going to have that weight sits inside of this cavity that Mike's built that around. So this one for me is slightly off center, so I'm just gonna recenter it. Okay, so there you go. So you can see that the hook is perfectly aligned with the bait, so there's nothing hanging off, there's nothing dangling off, there's nothing intrusive. The bait is free to go through whatever cover it wants to go through. This is great at coming through grass. It's great through coming through timber. One of my favorite ways to fish this is just straight through wood. So if you guys live in places that have a lot of hardwood, the Citizen is unbelievable in that. But the 6-inch size is just such a small, easy size. Any bass can eat this, any size bass, from 1-pounders to, 25-pounders should they exist. So when they eat it, it's gonna happen like this. That chaos air chamber is going to collapse, and then you're gonna have all that bite of that hook. So you can see, even with the 6/0, tons of bite once that air chamber collapses. If you wanted to rig it with the 8/0, and a lot of guys do like the 8/0, and I also like the 8/0 at times. So for me, the 6/0 is perfect, I would say, as my general use. I'd say probably 80% of the time it's with the 6/0. But sometimes if I'm fishing a little quicker, if I'm fishing a little heavier cover, if I need to hit them super quick, like let's say for instance, is a huge tree here, and I know that when they come up and get this, they're gonna get it and get right into cover, and I need to wind down and absolutely crack them. I like to go to the 8/0 to do that. I like the 6/0 a little bit better on a longer cast where it can be out there kind of doing its thing, and then I feel the thunk, and I can just kind of wind down and give it a second, make sure they have it, and then come back and swing. That's when I like the 6/0. We're just gonna take this CPS spring off, same exact rigging. I just wanna show you guys the difference in physical appeal here. I'm gonna open this up, slide this on. Okay, and we'll tighten that up just so that doesn't pop off. Tighten this back, one more full turn. There we go. And you can feel when that guy's getting tight. Now, you're gonna line this up the same way. You need to kind of stick this through towards the back end of that air chamber. Get it lined up in there, straight out the middle. And it's gonna sit almost the same as the 6/0 does. Okay, but you can see there's a little more gap here, right? And there's a little wider weight here. So there's a little more obvious of a hook. It's not bad, right? It's not a big deal. So I think in open water, I just like the cleanliness of the 6/0, but if I'm fishing around super heavy cover and the fish are really just reacting to something moving quick, I don't mind that 8/0 at all. There's the 2 riggings on the 6-inch. Now, another possibility and something that I do maybe about 15 to 20% of the time is instead of just using a plain beast hook, you can go to a flashy swimmer. I know I just finished saying that Mike's a huge kind of geek on not seeing hooks dangling and things dangling from the bait. And the flashy swimmer basically gives a blade off the bottom of this, so now it's dangling and it's not fitting perfect. But there are times when you need a little bit more depth control, yet still be able to fish fast. And that's what the flashy swimmer does for me. So if I'm fishing anywhere from the surface to, let's say, 10 feet or so, these are very easy to control depth with. But if I want to fish this thing in, let's say, 15 or 20 feet, and I don't want to painfully slowly crawl it along the bottom, I want it to move at a relatively quick pace, then adding the blade will allow it to sink down, and then I can move it at a quicker pace, and that blade will help just control the depth and prevent it from coming up, if that makes sense. There is a use and a reason for that blade, depending on what you guys need for depth control. Now, one more thing that you can do to these is you can alter them by using nail weights. Remember that every Citizen is hand poured. Okay, now they're hand poured to incredibly strict specifications and quality control, and I've never seen anything like it. Probably the highest quality control place that I've ever seen, but they are hand poured. So sometimes different batches of plastic might be slightly different than a batch before. Sometimes one pour might be slightly more top or slightly more left. So even though the QC is incredibly high, sometimes you rig everything perfect and you go to swim it and it still goes slightly right or slightly left. Or even if it goes perfectly straight, sometimes you want to fish it at a little higher rate of speed, and you go too fast, you'll notice that it goes off to one side. That's where you can use a nail weight to kind of help counterbalance what you're seeing. So Working Class Zero makes great nail weights. You could also use some of these heavier sides and you can insert them. I like to insert them right behind the chamber, but you can also insert them in the head. So you can go, head shot in that thicker plastic. You can put them wherever you want to put them. I like these little Ryugi tungsten adjust for micro tuning it. If you're just looking to prevent it from going a little bit this side, I like these. You can break them down, just put a little bit of nail weight on that side, and it just kind of counterbalances it, and you're good to go. Okay, 7-inch. 7-inch is my favorite size, okay? 6-inch, best selling by far. It's probably the easiest to throw for everybody, but the 7-inch gets the same bites the 6-inch gets, but it's a much bigger profile. So for me, anything that eats this is going to eat this, is what I've found. So I catch the same 1, 2, 3, 4 pounders on this that I do on this, only this just brings me more attraction. It's a larger profile, so it's easier for the fish to find. When you go to the 9-inch, we're really stepping up now, right? So this is gonna pretty much eliminate those 1 and 2 pounders, but give you even more crazy profile under the water. This bad boy was built around the 10-aught beast, okay? So the 10-aught beast comes in various sizes. I like the 1/2 ounce. You can do the 3/8 ounce as well. Either of those work. Or you can do the 3/4 ounce if you want to keep it down a little bit deeper. It's basically just more or less weight there. But the 10-aught is gonna rig exactly the same. I'm just gonna rig one really quick just so you guys can see it rigged. Open this up. Attach the hook. Now, if you guys get one and the hook doesn't slide right in, super easy. You can either sit there and struggle with it, or you can just very easily take the same pliers that you're gonna close it up with, just open it up just a touch, snap that on there, close that back up so it doesn't fall off, and then you're good to go. So don't spend too much time struggling with it. Use the pliers to your advantage. Tighten it up. So same thing, you're gonna basically insert this into the air chamber, line it up, make sure you know where the center is, and if you do it right, that should pop right out the center. That should line up right in that hole, and then you're perfectly dialed. And there again, you can see that the hook lays perfectly flush on that bait. So it is ready to go, ready to be used. And then again, fish bite it, that Chaos air chamber, even though it looks like there's no bite, it completely compresses and you've got plenty of bite in there for great hook sets. The Owner Beast series of hooks is probably my favorite series of hooks ever made. Almost impossible to miss a fish. I'm gonna knock it a bunch of times. I don't want that to jinx me. But incredible hookup ratio. So there you go. There is the rigging. Let's talk about rods and gear so you guys know what you need to do to be prepared. Okay, so basically when it comes to rod and gear, I basically break this down into two categories. I usually fish the Citizen either close range, accurate casting, so that could be something like tule lines, skipping berms, maybe skipping edges or lanes of trees. Maybe there's tons of grass, I'm just fishing little grass edges, skipping docks, that kind of stuff. And that's how I fish them probably 60 to 70% of the time. More often than not, I like it as like a power fishing type swim bait. The rest of the time might be more open water. I'm firing across a point or out over a deeper edge of grass and I want it to sink down to the bottom and really slowly crawl. I kind of use two different rod setups. You guys don't have to do that, but I geek out on all this stuff, so I go crazy. Talking about my close range setups first, this is basically the rod that I use for everything. This is the Megabass TS Destroyer Poker. I have a couple of these in rotation at all times. This is an unbelievable frog rod. You've heard me talk about it as a frog rod before, but it's an amazing rod for handling both the 6-inch and the 7-inch Citizen. It handles both sizes. It doesn't throw the 9 quite as good. The 9's pretty heavy, so go with a larger rod for that. But the 6 and the 7, beautiful on this. You really don't even feel much of a difference. I go with a high speed gear ratio on this, which is kind of opposite of what most guys do. I like an 8-to-1. You could do a 7-to-1 also. Most guys would say they prefer a 6-to-1 because they want a nice slow and steady movement out of the Citizen. But if I'm fishing close range in shallow water, more often than not, I can slowly creep this reel handle, and if a fish comes out and gets it and moves and I don't have a lot of distance, I want to pick up that line quick and hammer them before they get me around a dock piling into something I can't pull them out of. So I like an 8-to-1 and I like to slow myself down on this. Antares DC Monster Drive or Steez A is what lives on these. I've got 2 set up right now, basically same exact rods, but 2 different lines. So for line, I live on 22-pound Sunline Shooter is my main line. Sometimes I'll go to 25. Every once in a while, I'll drop down to 20, especially on a long cast. I don't mind going to 20, but for close range stuff, I live on 22-pound. The reason for that is this is a big hook. Whether you're using the 6-aught, the 8-aught, the 10-aught, it's a big hook, right? And almost always when they eat a Citizen, they know it's real, so it's in their mouth. And so your line's gonna be rubbing on their teeth. It's gonna possibly be rubbing on some wood, on some dock pilings. You gotta drive that hook in. So I like to go up in size to that 22 so I can really hammer them and crack the whip. The 22 is also built for like flipping and punching. So it's got a little bit of stretch added to it. The 22 and the 25 both have some stretch. So it allows me to not break off on hook sets. If you just try to throw this thing on like 20-pound sniper and you try to fish the way I'm talking about fishing, you're gonna break them off on the hook sets. It's not enough line. So you gotta go 22 or 25 so that you give yourself enough gap. Now, if you're fishing more open water and you're not fishing around heavy cover and you're a lighter hook set kind of guy or you're farther away, then 20-pound is perfect on these. So 22 lives on that one. 65-pound braid lives on this one. Now, that's not a common line to throw for swim baits, but we do a lot of fishing here around tules and grass, which I know a lot of you guys watching this video are also going to do. So if I'm skipping up underneath tules or grass and I make a bad skip and it gets too far in the tules, the braid allows me just to kind of pull it off those tules and let it kind of fall. If I'm just doing fluorocarbon, you can't pull it out of the stupid tules. If you're the most amazing caster in the world, you probably don't need the braid. But if you kind of suck sometimes like I do, and you screw up every 20 or 30 casts, the braid is nice. This is a very specific use. This is only for that vegetation or grass. Anything else, wood, open water, even open water grass, it's always that floral. The other rod I will use as more of a medium use rod is this one. This is from Raid. This is the Raid Gladiator Undertaker. So this is their soft bait rod. It's rated for up to 5 ounces. So this can actually throw all 3 of these sizes, the 6-inch, the 7-inch, and the 9-inch. It's a 7.5, but it's very fast and it's very powerful. So it's a little longer. The poker is only 7.2, so I like it for closer range, kind of more accurate stuff. The 7.5 is a great like mid-range one for me, where maybe I'm gonna be firing next to a dock, but then maybe the next cast I'm gonna fire it down, you know, a lane. It's got the longer swim bait grip on it, but it's not a big, huge, you know, 8-foot rod. So it's one that's very easy for me to navigate. I like a Steez A on this. Again, a 7-to-1 or an 8-to-1 for me, just so I have more line pickup, is absolutely perfect. But you can do any 150, maybe to 200 size reel on this. Once you go past that 200, it gets kind of big, but you could do like a Corrado M, you could do a Tatula 200, but once you go to like a Tranks 300 or a Tatula 300, it's a little overkill. So this is just a nice, light, easy swim bait rod, perfect for this style of fishing. Now, the other 2 rods I use more for my open water fishing. So if I'm just sitting out and I need to make a long cast across a point, down a weed edge, something like that, maybe off of a ledge break, right? And distance is important, and I want to bomb the cast, let it sink down to the bottom, and then just slowly crawl that thing along. Then usually my rod of choice is the Orochi X10 Anaconda. Okay, so this is a dedicated soft bait rod for me. It fishes the Citizen absolutely perfect. Now, for me, it really throws the 7-inch and the 9-inch perfect. The 6-inch it can handle just fine, but the 6-inch doesn't weigh a whole lot. So I'm not a huge fan of the 6-inch on this, but I almost never throw it like what we're talking about anyway. 6-inch for me is like a shallower, target-oriented thing. If I'm gonna crawl something really slowly on the bottom, it's usually a 7. This is a fantastic rod. I have a Tatula 300 on there, which I've been enjoying. It's not the most bougie reel, but it's a really solid reel. I know Mike Gilbert, the owner of Working Class Zero, lives on these things. A lot of guys have switched over to the Tatula 300 because it's just kind of a workhorse, so it's been good. I like 7-to-1, 6-to-1 is more popular. I have an 8-to-1 on this one right now just because I've been playing with it, try to see, but the 8-to-1's a little fast for me for the deeper water. So I like to slow myself down for that slower retrieve. So I'd stay in a 6 or 7-to-1, but that's a great combo. Now, the other one, and Cal and I were just talking about this before we hit record. This is my absolute favorite rod to throw the Citizen on in open water, the 6 and the 7, okay? And that is the Destroyer P5 Jungle 7. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk to this. This rod sucks at casting the Citizen, okay? It's not fun. So if you look at the difference between these 2 rods, you'll notice the Jungle 7 is much shorter in handle length, and you know it. Right? So you put that 7-inch Citizen on there and you go to lean back on your cast, you wish there was another 4 inches of rod back there, and there's not. It's kind of short and it kind of sucks to kind of lob them out there, but once it's out there, this rod is absolutely perfect for everything you need it to do. It's easy to feel the tail movement. You feel even the lightest little bites. It's easy to manipulate, so you know like it's coming over a rock, I need to speed up a little bit. Let me slow it back down. It's got the right power. The hook sets are phenomenal. If you can get past the shitty casting of it, everything else is perfect. If Megabass is listing, slightly longer handle on this, we don't need a punching rod. It was built to be a punching rod, right? But there's enough good punching rods. Just lengthen it a little bit and give us a good soft bait swim bait rod. It'll be perfect. So if you guys have one of these in your arsenal, maybe consider doing it. The other reason I love it is I just put a Steez A on there. And I'm a huge fan of the Steez A for baits like this because it's solid and it's small. And this is a very easy, light, comfortable setup for me to fish all day. I can run 20-pound shooter on it, throw it out there all day long and not even sweat it. It's a substantially lighter combo than the Anaconda with the 300. This is like a legit swim baiter's rod. This is like a bougie, light, cool version of doing it. I really dig this combo. I think you guys will too. All right guys, that is a wrap. I hope that was insightful. Again, we are going to do our special Cokehead drop this Sunday, 6-inch, 7-inch, 9-inch. They are going to be available. There's a lot of them, but the way these things flew out last time, I would expect them to fly out because it's a super sick color. Working Class Zero makes almost no transparent colors. This is one of the only transparent colors that they do, and it being in a white transparent too, it's just a super sick color. I hope you guys get some. I hope you catch a ton of big ones on it. Enjoy the Citizen. If you guys have any questions, from colors to sizes to riggings to rods, whatever, you can drop a question down below and I will get answers for you. Of course, I put my Instagram handle in the beginning of every video so you guys know how to reach me on a more 24/7 basis. I'm happy to dive down rabbit holes with you guys, especially when it comes to making sure your gear is right. So if you ever have any questions, rod, reel, line, whatever, you can find me over there. Callan, you ready to go throw some Citizens?
That sounds like a good time.
All right. Enjoy, my friends. If you need anything else, like I said, drop it down below. Callan will put links to everything so you guys know how to find it. And on behalf of myself and Callan, everybody here at the Hookup Tackle guys, thank you for watching our videos and thank you for your business. We will see you again soon. Remember, Sunday, 8 o'clock, Arizona time, Cokehead. All right, peace.